"Excuse me, can you grab me a coffee? I'm here to meet the CEO." She thought the poised black woman standing by the conference room was just an assistant. What she didn't know, that assistant was the CEO of a $9 billion tech empire. And in just 5 minutes, she would regret everything. Stay with us, because this is one business meeting she'll never forget. Karen Matthews prided herself on being what she called a top-tier marketing executive. In her world, appearances were everything. Blonde hair styled to perfection, manicured nails, a pair of 6-inch designer heels, and a leather briefcase that cost more than most people's monthly rent. This was her armor. This was how she walked into every business meeting, as if she already owned a room. For years, her attitude had worked. People bent over backward for her. They opened doors, smiled too wide, nodded too quickly. She expected that same response wherever she went, and today was no exception. She was on her way to Zentra Tech, one of the fastest-growing tech firms in the country. It had just been valued at $9 billion and was the talk of every major financial network. A contract with them would mean Karen's firm could double its portfolio in a single move. This wasn't just another pitch. This was the pitch. The one that could put her name in national magazines. Her plan was simple. Walk in with confidence, impress the CEO, land the deal. No humility, no second-guessing. That was her style. The moment she stepped into the high-ceilinged lobby, she barely acknowledged the receptionist. "I have a 10 a.m. with the CEO," she announced, not even slowing her pace. When the receptionist politely asked for her to wait a moment, Karen just kept walking. "It's fine," she said over her shoulder. "I know where I'm going." Clacking heels echoed off the marble floor as she strutted past a few interns and junior staffers who turned to look. She reached the glass doors labeled Executive Conference Room, Suite A, and stopped. That's when she saw her. A poised, elegant black woman in a fitted navy pantsuit was standing near the door. She wasn't holding a clipboard, wasn't tapping on a tablet. Just standing there, confident, composed, and seemingly unbothered by the corporate rush all around her. Karen's mind made the leap in seconds. No name badge, not holding papers, standing quietly, must be the assistant. So, with zero hesitation and not even a glance of courtesy, Karen spoke. "Excuse me," she said, in a tone that was more command than question. "Can you grab me a coffee? 2 creams, 1 sugar. And tell the CEO I'm here for our meeting." She didn't smile. She didn't say please. She just gave the order like she was talking to someone behind a counter. The woman looked at her, her face calm and unreadable. A small smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Not amused, not angry, just composed. "Sure," the woman said with a nod. "Let's go inside first." Karen smirked, thinking the assistant was eager to please. She followed her through the double glass doors, unaware of the truth. Unaware that her arrogance had just written a check her reputation couldn't cash. She had no idea that the woman she just ordered around was the one holding the pen that could change her future. Karen stepped into the executive conference room, expecting the usual, a sterile setup, a bland table, maybe a few folders scattered about. But this was luxury, understated but powerful. The long oak table gleamed under soft, recessed lighting. Each chair was leather-bound and polished. A digital screen at the end of the room lit up automatically as she walked in. "Welcome, Ms. Karen Matthews." Her name in clean, elegant font. Bottled water and crystal glasses were arranged with surgical precision. The notepads were embossed with the company's logo in gold. Even the scent in the room was tailored, something fresh and refined like sandalwood and subtle citrus. Karen felt like she had already won. "They've rolled out the red carpet," she thought smugly. Clearly they know who they're dealing with. As she pulled out her chair, she glanced to her right. That same woman, the one she assumed was an assistant. The one she'd ordered around like a barista. She was walking in behind her. Karen didn't think much of it. Probably here to take notes or pass out documents, she assumed. More executives began to trickle in. Men and women in suits, nodding and murmuring hellos. They each greeted that same woman with a respectful nod, some with smiles, others with subtle admiration. Karen noticed it, but still didn't connect the dots. Maybe she's high up, she considered. But she can't be the CEO. No way. Then it happened. The door closed behind the last person. A hush fell over the room as someone tapped lightly on the digital screen. An older gentleman, silver-haired, clearly senior, cleared his throat and addressed the room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce the reason we're all in this room. Please welcome our CEO, Ms. Naomi Sinclair. Karen blinked. Wait, what? Her eyes darted to the woman she had mocked just 10 minutes ago. That same composed expression, that same flawless navy blue suit. And now, that same woman was confidently walking to the head of the table. Naomi Sinclair, the CEO, the most powerful person in the building. The woman Karen had demanded coffee from like she was hired help. Karen's entire body stiffened. Her mouth went dry. Her throat tightened. She couldn't even fake a smile. Her jaw quite literally dropped. The executives around her began taking their seats, but Karen was frozen in place. Panic rising inside her like a tide she couldn't control. This can't be happening. She can't be the CEO. But every move Naomi made confirmed it. The way people waited for her to speak. The way she sat, calm, elegant, assured. The way no one said a word until she did. Naomi looked straight at Karen for a brief moment. Not with anger. Not even with pity. Just quiet recognition. She remembered. And Karen knew it. Because now she was no longer the woman in control. She was no longer the top executive in the room. She was just the woman who had made the worst mistake of her career. And the meeting hadn't even started yet. Naomi Sinclair didn't need to shout to command a room. She never had. With a Harvard MBA in one pocket, a Forbes 30 under 30 plaque on her office wall, and a company now valued at over $9 billion under her leadership, Naomi's very presence was enough. Her name echoed in boardrooms. Her business decisions moved markets. But more than that, what truly set her apart was her ability to read people. Quickly, clearly, and completely. And she had already read Karen Matthews the moment she walked through the door. Now seated at the head of the table, Naomi didn't stare. She didn't glare. She simply looked around the room, then began to speak in a calm, even voice. Before we begin, she said, her tone soft but deliberate, I want to remind everyone of something important. Karen, seated just a few chairs down, felt her heart skip. Something about the pause in Naomi's voice, the silence that followed, made her stomach tighten. Naomi folded her hands on the table, leaned in slightly, and continued. How you treat people when you think they're not important says a lot about you. The air seemed to change. Nobody moved. Nobody dared sip their water. Karen shifted uncomfortably, her heels tapping lightly against the marble floor as she tried to steady herself. Naomi wasn't done. At Zentratech, she continued, her eyes now gently scanning the table, we don't do business based on ego. We value respect over titles, dignity over deals. Her words were precise, clean, delivered with the kind of gravity that made you feel like they were written on stone. If you don't treat our people right, she said, her voice unwavering, you don't do business with us. It's that simple. It was a masterclass in grace and power. Karen knew exactly who that message was for. No names were mentioned. No drama. Just facts. Clear, unshakable, and now hanging over the room like a silent storm cloud. A few of the other executives glanced her way. Some subtle, others not so much. Karen felt the heat rush to her face. Her palms were clammy. That confident air she had walked in with, it was gone, melted away under the weight of her own mistake. And the worst part? She hadn't even started her pitch yet. Her laptop sat in front of her, untouched. Her notes suddenly looked childish. Her carefully rehearsed words felt empty. Because deep down, she knew no amount of slides could undo what had just been done. Naomi had already spoken the only words that mattered, and she had said them before the meeting had even officially started. The message was clear. In this room, respect is currency. And Karen was already bankrupt. Karen's fingers trembled slightly as she opened her laptop. Her confidence was fractured, but not entirely gone. She still believed, hoped, that maybe, just maybe, she could recover. So, She forced a laugh. One of those nervous, overly casual chuckles that didn't quite land. "Sorry for the mix-up earlier," she said, trying to wave the moment away like it was a misunderstanding. "I just thought, well, anyway, let's dive into the pitch." She clicked her presentation open, the screen behind her glowing to life. Slide 1, Market Penetration Strategy. The same slide she had rehearsed in front of a mirror 20 times. The same words she thought would impress a boardroom full of decision-makers. But Naomi Sinclair didn't even glance at the screen. She was already done. With a graceful nod and a calm tone, Naomi cut through the tension with surgical precision. "Actually," she said, folding her hands neatly on the table, "I think we've heard enough." Karen blinked. "But I haven't even." Naomi's expression was kind, not cruel, but there was steel behind her smile. "At Zentratech, we partner with people we trust," she said evenly. "People who respect others, no matter what they look like. That's our standard. That's our culture." She leaned back gently in her chair and finished. "Thank you for your time." The silence that followed was crushing. Karen's hands hovered above her keyboard, frozen mid-slide. Her pitch deck, the one she had poured 2 months into, was now utterly useless. Her voice caught at her throat. This was it. It was over. She tried to find the words to salvage the moment, but there was nothing left to say. The meeting had lasted less than 10 minutes, and it hadn't been cut short because of technical problems or scheduling conflicts, or because the pitch was weak. It was her attitude, her assumptions. Her decision to judge someone by appearance had cost her everything. Karen looked around the room, hoping to find one sympathetic face. But all she saw were professionals who had already turned their attention back to their notebooks or water glasses, quietly respecting the decision of their CEO. There are no second chances here. No oops, my bad passes. She realized in that moment that she hadn't just lost a deal, she had burned a bridge with one of the most influential companies in the country. And the worst part? It didn't have to be this way. Had she just treated Naomi like an equal, like a human being with dignity, things might have gone differently. But Karen had walked in believing her title made her important. And Naomi had walked in knowing that true power doesn't shout. It stands tall and waits to be seen. As Karen stepped out of the conference room, her heels no longer clicked with confidence. They dragged with defeat. The hallway, once full of energy and anticipation, now felt like a walk of shame. A few employees looked up from their desks, some with curiosity, others with quiet understanding. They had heard, not the whole conversation, but enough to know that another one had underestimated Naomi. As she approached the front desk, the receptionist, whom Karen had breezed past without so much as a glance when she arrived, looked up and gave her a small, polite nod. Not out of sympathy, not out of cruelty, just acknowledgement. Karen didn't nod back. She couldn't. Her throat was tight, her palms sweaty, and her mind spinning in 1,000 directions. She reached the revolving glass door and pushed through, stepping out into the morning light, where the bustling city traffic felt distant, muted. She stood there for a moment, frozen on the sidewalk. The wind tugged gently at her coat. People walked past her, unaware of what had just happened. To the outside world, she looked like any successful executive leaving a big meeting. But inside, she was humiliated. Not because she lost a pitch. She'd lost pitches before. That wasn't new. No, this humiliation ran deeper. It came from the truth she couldn't run from. She had judged someone based on their skin, their gender, and their presence. She had made assumptions. And in doing so, she had disrespected the very person she needed to impress. And Naomi hadn't needed to scold her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam a hand on the table. She simply stood in her truth and let Karen fall on her own sword. Back inside, the atmosphere was different. Quiet claps came from a few of Naomi's senior team. Not for the takedown, not for the rejection, but for the strength of their leader. Because Naomi Sinclair had once again reminded them why they followed her. She didn't just lead meetings, she led by example. She didn't just talk about company culture, she embodied it. No matter how successful she became, Naomi never forgot where she came from. She had been underestimated before. She had been mistaken for the intern, the assistant, the background staffer, so many times. But every time, she turned that disrespect into a lesson the world wouldn't forget. In this moment, this was one of them. As her staff returned to their work, Naomi took a deep breath and smiled softly to herself. Not out of satisfaction, but clarity. Because what happened today wasn't about revenge. It was about reminding everyone who they are and who they choose to be. And as she walked back toward her office, her words echoed in the minds of everyone who had heard them. Kindness is free. Respect is earned. But dignity? That's something no one can take from you, unless you give it away. If you love this story and believe titles don't define respect, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder. Don't ever judge a book by its cover, especially when that book might just be the CEO.